Hello and welcome back. I'm Nicole, a cottage witch, and today I'm doing my January reading wrap-up. I don't know why that sounded so awkward to say, but anyway, one of the first books I read this month was Woman, Life, Freedom, edited by Malu, Halasa, based on the protests in Iran. So it's a collection of essays and sometimes poems and photography and artwork, and it's just so cool. I really love this one. It's from, people's voices you don't really hear, like queer people in Iran. You don't usually get to hear from them. And Iranian artists you don't usually see in the West. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then I listened to Icelandic folk legends, Tales of Apparitions, Outlaws, and Things Unseen by Alda, Sigmundsdottir. That was also a lot of fun. It was very short. It was like a 4-hour audiobook, I think. So it was pretty little and easy to read. And it was kind of interesting because some of the folk tales were very similar to things I'd read before, and some had their own different quirks. So that was fun. I listened to, actually, and there go my books. The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. This was a lot of fun. There was a little section near the end that she switched to an epistolary style, and that slowed it right down. So that was a bit of a slog to get through that little section that went on for a bit longer than it needed to. But otherwise it was a lot of fun. I mean, it starts out in Oxford's library looking up things about vampires and Dracula. And yeah. Hopefully my books will not fall over again. So yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that mostly, except for that one little thing. There were sort of two streams that were woven together, and I think that probably could have been done a little bit more fluidly as well. But on the whole, I really liked it, and it was it was just fun. Then I reread. Oh, they're gonna fall over again, aren't they? Yep. Anne Brontë's books. So both The Tenant of Wildfell Hall and Agnes Grey, and they're both really good. They get sort of overshadowed by Charlotte and Emily Bronte's books, but they're really good. The Tenant of Wildfell Hall is especially good. I mean, so the restrictions of society and Christianity on women come into play in these, possibly even more than the other books, and women have a harder time trying to deal with that. And they're more, I guess, naturalistic, certainly than J.R.R. or Wuthering Heights. But yeah, I don't know. Reading the Brontes is like my happy place. So that was fun. I also read Dr. Zhivago, finally. This has been on my shelf for, I don't actually know how long. I listened to it, but I listened to the same translation by Richard Peviar and Larissa Volokonsky. They did, I think, the Tolstoy books that I've read. They did the translations. And something else as well, I can't remember. Anyway, they're apparently known, like they're well-known and well-respected translators. And it was a good translation. The beginning I found a little hard to get into because there were so many storylines going on at once and so many characters. And so I had to pull up the Wikipedia article to keep track of who was who and where somebody had seen so-and-so before and that sort of thing. But once it got into the Yuri and Lara storyline, it was fantastic. And I loved that part. It was really beautiful. But yeah, a little difficult to get into for a while there. Then just like 10 minutes ago, I finished Heating and Cooling, 52 micro memoirs by Beth and Fennelly. This is really good. Some of them are very micro, like 1 or 2 sentences long. So some of them are you know, a little bit longer. And there are maybe 3 or 4 that are 3 or 4 pages, but that's kind of the longest, and they're really fun. It's just not a style of memoir I'd read before. I guess the closest would be Carmen Maria Macado's Dream House, but that was sort of themed differently, and these ones are all very, very short. But yeah, it was fun. I liked it. Okay, then I read some witchy books. One of them was Tarot by Numbers by Liz Dean. It's all very shiny, which is fun. Because there are a few people on Instagram, which I'm taking a short break from today. I think it's auto-posted today, I think. But aside from that, I'm taking a little bit of a break from that today because I'm taking a mental health day, and that does not help. But there were a few people talking about it, and it was interesting. It was like a study group for the Marseille, sort of. This uses, it's a bit weird because it's tarot by numbers, but it uses the Rider-Waite-Smith, which sometimes, especially in the minors, I don't really agree with because some of the numerological meanings don't really align with the symbolism on the Waite-Smith cards, in my view anyway. But the rest of it was pretty good. It's very easy to read. It's a very unintimidating beginner book to this sort of thing. So yeah, that was fun. I'm glad I read it. Will I read it again? Probably not, but I mean, it was good. And then I read, okay, I listened to a bunch. One was A Confluence of Witches, edited by Casey Zabala. So this was actually a collection of essays by a whole bunch of different people, and it was really fun. I'll re-listen to it. Several of these I'm going to re-listen to at some point because in terms of mental health coping mechanism, I sort of powered through a bunch of them obsessively, which was helpful, and I appreciated them, but I will go back and reread them and try and get more out of it. But A Confluence of Witches was really nice because it talked about things from different perspectives that I'm not used to, like people in different social circumstances, but also there were things on like tech witchcraft, which I haven't really gotten into. I go around talking to trees, even though I work as a data analyst, so I don't know. It gave me some things to think about. And it was a really, I think she did a good job of collecting them all. Like they all explored interesting things, but nothing felt jarring or out of place. Yeah, so that was fun. And then I finally got to this one, The Fairy Faith in Celtic Countries by W.Y. Evans-Wentz. It was good. Most of it, like the vast majority of it, was a collection of people's encounters with the good neighbors in Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Cornwall, Brittany, and the Isle of Man. And I appreciated that it's culturally specific to each of these places, and also that it includes some of the ones like Brittany where that doesn't really get talked about all that much. The only thing that sort of got a bit weird was here's a section at the end. Which one was it? Science, Modern Science, and the Fairy Faith and Conclusions. So by modern, he means, when was this published? 2004? Modern-ish, yeah. But some of his conclusions were just a bit, I don't know, I was not convinced that he could arrive at that conclusion based on the evidence that he'd presented. And so sometimes he talked about what he felt were equivalent beings to the fair folk in other countries, but it didn't really go into it and just sort of listed off tons of other countries and tons of other spirits that people there believe in, but how exactly they might be similar or dissimilar to the Fae was not really expanded upon. And he did talk in the final chapter about primitive beliefs, when it comes to the Celtic faiths and also to like other African faiths and stuff. So that was a bit unnecessary, as judgments go, I guess. But on the whole, it was a lot of fun. And then I listened to Querying the Runes by Siri, Vincent, Plouff. That was really good. I liked it a lot. There were a few things I disagreed with, like with Halasa, the Hail rune. There were a couple of things that they said that were, I don't know, trying to find a positive side, which I don't think is always strictly necessary. Sometimes devastation can just be devastating. It doesn't have to have development on your like moral life or anything like that. So that reminded me a little bit of some Christians who will say, well, everything happens for a reason. No, sometimes things don't happen for a reason. It's not happening to test your faith or help you develop, or it's just bad. So sometimes things can just be destructive. So like there were things like that I disagreed on, but on the whole it was really, really interesting and gave me a lot to think about. So that was fun. And then I went on a Kellyanne Maddox spree because I read Witch in Darkness, which I loved, which was one of the ones that I'll also have to listen to again. And it was really good. And I'll say it was fun, except like her writing style is fun. The content of that book is quite dark because it's dealing with like loss and traumatic things happening. You know, like sometimes life is just brutal, and there's no getting around that. And so that's what this book is about. And it's really well done. And she does talk about some very personal things that have happened to her. I think her brother passed away as she was in the process of writing the book, so that impacted it quite a lot. But yeah, it's weird to say I enjoyed it because it was talking about such dark things, but I feel like, you know, as most people who make it this far in life, I have some experience with that, so I could relate. And she has some good ideas, and I will go back to that one for sure. And then I read Rebel Witch, which I'd never read before, and it was also really good. It was much lighter and much more fun and very creative. I like the way she thinks. It's very imaginative, her style. So yeah, those were good fun. And then I did some, let me move these out of the way, French and Arabic. So on Link, I had listened to Suluehi. Link is an app for language learning where you can read and listen at the same time, and then press the words to look them up and that sort of thing. So I listened to that graded reader twice. And it was really exactly what I needed. Some of the stories in this series are a bit questionable. Like, I don't know, this one had, what was the weird one in this one? The second reader that I'm listening to now, the first story is about the various ways a man tries to commit suicide, which just, why? Weird. Anyway, the racism in the first book. That's what it was. Somebody goes to Thailand, I think, or Vietnam, to find a wife, and there are all sorts of racial and sexist stereotypes, so it's a bit not my favorite part. Skipped that one on the reread. But what I liked about these books is that they're very repetitive, which sounds boring, which a little bit, but on the other hand, you have more success when you're reading and you come across the same words over and over again. You're like, yeah, I know that one. I understood that sentence, that whole sentence. So that was a lot of fun. I also finished, I'd started this in December, but I finished Le Retour du Roi, the third Lord of the Rings book. I was listening to that as an audiobook, and that was fun. I mean, I love Lord of the Rings. I've read them, I don't know, 5 times maybe now through, and The Hobbit a couple of times, and they're just so much fun. They're delightful. They make me happy. So I'd started reading last year Madame Bovary, which was a bit too hard for me. So then I went right back to the Harry Potter books, and yes, I know the author has gone clear off the deep end. She's nuts. But I have the books, and they're kind of just below my reading level. Like, I can read them really easily now, which is exciting. So I'm doing that to sort of practice speeding up my French reading because it's quite slow. And then I got these books. The Millennium Trilogy. Thud. There goes the third one. So I finished. What is this? Oh, there's a leaf in this book. Didn't know that. Interesting. Very nice. Apparently I had used it as a leaf. Here's another leaf. Hold on. This is a giant leaf with funny little swirly things. Cool. Clearly I listened to the audiobook for these, but the next time I go through them, so I'm still working my way through the third audiobook. And another leaf. Alright, I wonder what kind of leaf this is. I'll have to look it up. It's not immediately familiar to me. Can't even remember putting it in there. Anyway, I will, the next time I think I'll actually read the physical books. But these were fun to listen to on audio because they are above my reading level, but they're not so far above my reading level. Like I can follow them pretty smoothly, but I have to really concentrate. But if I'm concentrating, I can totally follow them, which is fun. So I listened to the first two, and I love the character of Lisbeth Salander. She's so much fun. And now I'm working my way through the third one, so that's what I read. I also joined, the Icelandic folklore was part of Candy's challenge. So she's got, I'll link her video down below. Candy Soul and Soil has a reading challenge on Storygraph, which I've just started using this month. With just a different prompt. They're kind of fun and weird and sometimes unexpected and sometimes expected, and they're just, I don't know, they're fun. So I've got the first one, and then the Historian was actually my one for February. So I'm a bit ahead on that, but that's because the other two vampire books I'm interested in. One doesn't come out until March. That's Stephen Graham Jones' new book. And the other one, The Vampires of El Norte, I have on hold at the library, but it'll come in like 3 or 4 months from now, so. Either way, not February. So this was the best I could do. And I have set up a couple other challenges. So that's one of the fun things about Storygraph. It doesn't have all the same features as Goodreads. I did transfer over most of my books. Some of them didn't transfer. So I'll see maybe if I can fix that later. But you can make challenges. So I've made one for reading the Middle East and North Africa, and a Read Around the World challenge of the books from around the world that I definitely want to read this year at some point. So far, I'm halfway through one of them, so that could be going better, but oh well. And then, oh yeah, I started a Witchy Reads one, just to collect all the witchy books I'm reading this year, so that'll be fun, I think. I don't mind it. It's kind of an interesting app. I mean, it has a lot of the same features as Goodreads, but not all of them. It doesn't have the group, like book clubby type things, but it does have the challenges, and it has more stats and things, so you can see what percentage of your books have different moods or different languages or different formats or whatever. Some of the formats I think I've put in wrong, so that one's not entirely accurate, but oh well. Anyway, those are my books for January. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.